Hello, welcome to Recapping with Delora
and Ashley.
Please follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at Recapping Podcast.
Also, comment, rate, and subscribe on your favorite podcast platform. We're on all the things.
We would love to hear your ratings of the movies and shows we review.
Email us your audio file to recappingpodcast@gmail.com and we will play it during the show.
Or DM us on Instagram and we will post and read it on air.
Thank you guys so much for listening.
Thank you.
Delora, what's up? What's up? How are you?
I am really excited, Ashley. We're about to talk about a movie with my number one, Ryan.
I think most of us, it's our number one Ryan, except for what's the project we talked about where they put Ryan Phillippe first?
Remember that? I don't remember it because it was two separate ones. It was Run the World.
It was Run the World.
Because the other one was the Chris situation, right?
And that was just in Sex Lives of College Girls. No, it was Run the World where they put Ryan Phillippe first.
Yeah.
That's negative. That's a negative.
Yeah. Someone from Generation X wrote that script.
We don't know where y'all are coming from with these lists, so we're going to correct that. This is definitely our favorite Ryan, the Ryan Reynolds, and we are recapping the Adam Project today, guys. As we talked about in our headlines and hot topics segment, this has been quite popular on Netflix since it dropped on March 11th. It has been in Netflix's top 10, but really number one for the most part. Runtime about 1 hour and 45 minutes. Quick summary. After accidentally crash landing in 2022, time-traveling fighter pilot Adam Reed teams up with his 12-year-old self on a mission to save the future. Director Sean Levy, as we mentioned again last week, this is a reunion of Ryan Reynolds and Sean from Free Guy, which we loved. Also, Sean is slated to direct Deadpool 3. Cast: Ryan Reynolds as adult Adam, Walker Scobell as young Adam, Mark Ruffalo as Lewis, Jennifer Garner as Ellie, Zoe Saldana as Laura, Catherine Keener as Maya, Alex Mallory Jr. as Christos. Reviews: Rotten Tomatoes, 68% critic score, 77% audience score, and 93% of Google users give this film a thumbs up. Delora, what is your grade for the Netflix project, The Adam Project?
Man, this was such a fun movie. And the fact that we got a chance to watch it at home, very excited about that. It did give me notes of other movies we've seen. We talked about this last week with the Marvel universe. It was giving me some of those vibes. Overall, favorite Ryan. I mean, I love the cast. I love Jen. I love Zoe. I love Mark. And so with that, I give this project a B+.
B+. All right. We're in the same ballpark. My grade is a B. Predictable, but again, Marvel loving cast. Okay. We have Deadpool, we have the Hulk, and we have Elektra in one freaking family. And then we have
Zoe
Gamora
yes,
as the love interest. Like it's almost too much to fathom. And then Jen Garner, Mark Ruffalo reunion, and it just had so much heart. I think that really is what made it stand out for me in terms of this particular film, given that it was more of an action comedy.
Catherine is Miss Incredible, though. Or not, she's in the Incredibles. I'm sorry. She's not Miss Incredible. That's Holly Hunter, of course. So they got good checks coming to them.
And you know what? I read that Tom Cruise was originally going to star in this project when it was in development about 10 years ago. Would you have enjoyed it as much with a different leading man, particularly Tom Cruise?
I just think it would have been an entirely different movie. You have the signature sarcasm of Ryan Reynolds. You're not going to get that with Tom Cruise. If anything, Tom Cruise, when it comes to humor, is the type that's very serious, and then he needs like a funny counterpart, right? That he can play off of. But he wouldn't have been able to carry the role. The role would have been very serious. It would have been a very, you know what I mean? Like earth saving mission versus we're saving the earth, but we're going to have fun while doing it.
I think you said it perfectly, because the article I was reading where it was mentioning it was basically saying they feel like the stunts would have been better with Tom Cruise, obviously, because Tom Cruise is so into doing his own stunts and all of that. And I get that. We've seen him do the pilot thing, Top Gun, all of that. Yeah, rah, rah.
Jumping off buildings.
But Ryan Reynolds is Ryan Reynolds. He adds such levity. He adds such humor. He adds heart. He also, in my opinion, played so well off of his younger self. You know what I mean? Like him and young Adam.
Yeah.
I just love their little chemistry. So I'm happy that this is the direction the film went in, because I really enjoyed it with this cast. So let's get into it. Spoiler alert, guys. We start the film in the year 2050, a mere 28 years from now, where time travel apparently exists. We meet Adam, who has stolen a plane, is injured, and is on the run. He makes a time jump to the year 2022, where his 12-year-old self is struggling with bullies in school and grief from the death of his father over a year earlier. He's also stressing his mother the F out. It doesn't take much time for young Adam to realize the stranger who crash landed in the backyard is him from the future. Same scar, wearing his dad's watch, etc. Delora, would this have been an easy pill for you to swallow at 12?
I was the kid that didn't believe in Santa Claus like ever. So why would I believe? I'm talking to him at the future me. I would have been like, does Jesus know about this? You know what I mean? I was very serious about my salvation at that age as well. So, no. How about you?
I think I would have believed this, because I have always lived in this fantasy almost of thinking that a lot of things that most people don't think exist do, even down to like some people don't believe that like spirits are really out here and ghosts and things. Exactly. I had a whole conversation with somebody recently, Dora, where I was like, listen, I don't do ghosts because I believe they really exist. He was like, really? I was like, absolutely. I think that ghosts exist and they are around. So I just feel like there are certain things that some people are just so adamantly against, that like as a child, especially when you're still in that era of like being more malleable. At 12, it would not have been a stretch for me to think like, oh shit, this could be real. Now, is that a good thing? Not necessarily, because I feel like it could have been a little more violent. Like if a stranger rolls up to my house, I'm Black. So it still is going to be an issue. And hopefully I don't have a gun in the house, because I may end up shooting my older self.
And it's a gender situation too, because I think it would have been a little different if it were a girl in some ways, thinking of it. It shouldn't be, but I don't know. That thought just came to me. But
no, that's a great point. Would it be less scary if you see a woman as a woman than it would be a guy? Because obviously a guy could be trying to overpower you more so, or do something more physically dangerous. Do you think you would have recognized yourself at all as a grown-up? Like if you were 12, you think you'd be like, hey, you kind of look like me.
Yeah, because I come from a family that looks exactly like themselves at birth. You know, some people are like, what? That was you? Oh my God. No, we all
no, y'all do have some strong genes. Y'all do.
David and I actually were talking about Amara the other day. You know, parents do this thing where they brag about their kids, especially when they're babies and young and toddlers and stuff. And I'm like, yeah, Amara was cute from birth. You know, like some kids be like, you're like, ooh, what's going on here? You know, you got to wait a couple of months to see the cuteness. But Amara has had the same face since birth. So that, I'm just saying, long line of people looking exactly the same.
Yeah, that's the only thing that really would have sealed the deal too, is I do feel like there may be that like, hey, you kind of look like, even if you don't look like, oh, this is me. Oh, it will be like, are you a long lost family member?
Right. Are
like,
you my auntie? Like, what is going on?
Exactly. So that may have saved you from a bullet as well, growing up, Ashley. We
Go get
find
these
out
hands. Go get these
exactly.
hands
You could have, especially a 12-hour tomboy. Yeah, you definitely could have got these hands. We find out that adult Adam is on a rescue mission and didn't mean to land in 2022, but was aiming for 2018. Young Adam ends up playing a critical role in helping out with the jet, which was damaged in his escape. Since, of course, the plane is coded to his DNA, like all future tech apparently, and won't clear him to fly injured. While adult Adam and the plane recover, he's forced to stay put, which he does not seem too thrilled about. Whereas young Adam says, "This is amazing." What did you think about the dynamic between young Adam and his mom? In one scene, after an encounter with a date she had, she even tells Adam he can be a real jerk sometimes.
She has way too much patience because, again, in my family, we don't tell people that they're jerks because we nip those bad behaviors in bud at a very, very young age. Okay. Like, you might be upset today, but this is not an ongoing behavior that we're going to tolerate.
At least one thing I can say for this character of Adam is, as opposed to certain children I've seen portrayed in television and movies, at least he, to me, was not blatantly disrespectful to his mother. He had a mouth.
You don't think so?
No. When I say that, I'm saying because I've said in one of my last few shows that we did that Better Things was one of my hidden gems. And those kids are downright crazy disrespectful, calling their mother out of her name, all sorts of things. Now that's some non-Black situations for the most part, because you not gonna call your mama out her name in a Black household and not have some type of severe repercussions, right?
Seriously.
But
the look alone would just be.
But I say that because I feel like he was more so just like really sarcastic and like not very affectionate versus just being like outright like harsh or crazy with his behavior. But I do think it was funny when she called him a jerk. I was like, so we gotta call our kids jerks.
You gotta call a spade sometimes.
We gotta call our kids jerks because, to your point, it definitely obviously needed to be nipped in the bud. And as adult Adam says, 30 years later, and you still get sick every time you think about the way that you treated her, your mother should be cherished. Now, given what we have not talked about again really in depth is that they're both dealing with grief and the loss of the father, his father, her husband. And it seems like instead of growing closer to his mother, Adam
is distancing himself.
He's more distant and he's handling his grief in a way in which he doesn't really seem to have much empathy for what his mother is also going through.
And I feel like that's part of the grace she's probably showing him as well.
Indeed. When the Adams make a run to the drugstore, they encounter the bullies that have been beating Adam up in school. Instead of initially intervening, adult Adam coaches his 12-year-old self to stand up and fight, which does not end well. What do you think of adult Adam's handling of this situation?
I feel like he was in a tricky situation, right? Because we heard him say you needed to lose this fight, right? So in some ways, I can't help you. But in others, let me give you some advice. And I guess Adam should have realized that he was hard-headed and wasn't going to follow exact advice. And then, little Adam got punched in the face. I understand an older person or, in the time travel conversation, the older you understanding pivotal moments that's needed for your building blocks, right? So it was a tough situation, but then, he ended up having to handle it anyway.
Exactly. And my thing is, Adam has gotten his ass kicked quite enough at this point. Like Adam has been suspended multiple times. Yeah. He's been bullied for a while, it sounds like. So I don't think this one fight was going to be make or break. And I think what hurt me in the scene, no. And that's another thing that I found so interesting is like, you're already here. You're already disrupting the entirety of the time construct as we know it just with your presence. So you intervening in this one fight, sir, was not going to be the end of the world. But also, Delora, what hurt me in this scene was I could see the humiliation that young Adam felt to get his ass kicked in front of his adult self. Because it's still like, this is embarrassing. You couldn't just help a brother. I am you, you are me. And I started to feel like there was a level of almost disdain that adult Adam had for young Adam. Like he mentioned multiple times, like, I really don't like you.
Yeah.
And you really get on my nerves. So I feel like that was part of it too. Like, it's not just that you feel like he, that this was so crucial. I feel like you also just did not like him that much. And you didn't like yourself.
Can you imagine how hard he worked to distance himself from that?
And that's what he said. He was like, I've spent so much time trying to get away from you. We'll get to that at the very end, though. I don't want to give away anything just yet. Mm-hmm. But I do feel like that was another element of it. So I felt for little 12-year-old Adam, because I was thinking the same thing, like, bruh, you got all these muscles. You this grown man. You telling me you couldn't stop from me getting beat up just this one time?
He did tell him to go for the jewels, and he didn't do it.
He tried to stand up. He was little. He mustered as much energy as he could. Poor thing. When adult Adam encounters his mother at a bar, they have a heart-to-heart. This is actually one of my favorite scenes.
It's actually my favorite scene. I have that in my notes. I'm like, stars.
It seemed to mean a lot to him to provide her with some comfort, right? Because again, he's mentioned the fact that after all this time, it still makes him sick to think about the way he used to treat her. And she seems to get a sense that he's not a stranger by the end of the conversation. You mentioned this is your favorite scene, but what else did you think about this scene? Do you think you would have recognized him as your child?
No, she was so preoccupied with, going to work, maintaining the household, taking care of her son. She obviously was a regular, right? Like, she's like, let me go ahead and get my wine. Okay. Like, so no, I don't think she was sitting up like, you know what? You look like my son 30 years from now. But I just thought it was so beautiful because, Jen is amazing. And she plays this mother, although I need for her to kick some ass again.
No, let's take it back to the Alias days.
Please, Electra. But she has found her niche in this, borderline America's Mom, because she perpetuates it on her social media as well. But it was so beautiful. And I mean, did we know Ryan had the range? I think we did, but it was beautiful to see him in that space compared to the sarcastic side that we get all the time from him.
As mother loving children, I think that this scene was so touching too, because you just think about what it would be like to get to experience your mother at a time maybe when she would have really needed you in the past and provide her with that type of comfort. Like, that was another thing I thought about, was like, what if you got to go back in a moment where your mother was really dealing with something hard and you almost got to be that like voice of reason or that friend she didn't know she needed. Like, it was just so sweet to me in that way as well.
This is my favorite scene, but I am not going to lie. There was a moment where I'm like, please don't have her try to hit on him or something like that. I'm like, giving me Back to the Future vibes. Like, please,
yes,
keep it straight and narrow. Okay?
I had that thought too, because obviously Ryan Reynolds is a handsome man, but I'm glad they didn't make it weird. Yeah,
the bar.
I'm glad they didn't make it weird, because that was super weird in Back to the Future. Super weird. So the rescue mission that Adam is on is to save his wife, Laura, who was presumed dead after a time jump, supposedly due to a plane malfunction during reentry. But he's not buying it because she was the best pilot in the program, apparently. She wrote the book on reentry, so he says. Adam's dad's former partner, Maya Sorian, is the one hunting him. She got rich after his dad's death, bought all the tech, and controls time travel in the future. When Maya and her security head, Christos, track Adam down in 2022, fighting, of course, ensues. And surprise, surprise, Laura is alive and shows up to help. Can I just say, I love Zoe Saldana in an action role.
I was like, come through, Colombiana, come through.
Exactly. I need
And
to rewatch Colombiana.
I mean, just her as her, not her as a blue person or a green person. Just her kicking butt, shooting guns, and taking names. I love it, love it, love it.
Absolutely. Laura had found out the truth, which is why they tried to kill her, that Maya had traveled back to 2018 to give her younger self intel, stock tips, removal of political obstacles, etc. When the Adam Project, created by his father, first went online, allowing for the possibility of time travel. This is another, to me, kind of reference to Back to the Future, because remember Biff did this?
Yeah.
And that's how Biff got rich.
And I also felt like it's always very rich that people who create these technology create these rules, but they break them on a regular basis. Because throughout the movie, Adam would say, oh, you're not supposed to do this. You're not supposed to do that. And then, they find out that people have been doing it and just been changing the record, the logs. Yeah, insane.
AKA Maya. They gave another reference to futuristic films when they talked about the Terminator, because apparently 2050 sucks and is kind of Terminator style, which who wants that? Nobody.
No one. And Adam is technically younger than us. Did you gather that?
I didn't think about that, but wow.
I did it. And it's been like blowing my mind. I was like, ooh.
Wow. Guess you have a good point, because in 28 years, we will not be 44 years old. So
no,
there you go. What'd you think of the chemistry between Zoe Saldana and Ryan Reynolds?
Where have they been all my life? I loved it. I loved it. I loved it. I loved it. How about you? You don't seem so convinced.
I wasn't. I felt like Ryan wasn't putting his back into it. I felt like, and I love the clip circulating on the press tour of a kid asking Ryan if his kissing scenes were real. And he's like, how do I answer this? Yes, but I didn't mean it. And I felt like that perfectly summed it up. You did, but you didn't really mean it, because I still just felt like you were not giving 100%. I felt like you still had Blake on your mind, and I need you to focus. I needed you to focus.
Oh, well, they're perfect together.
I know. And you don't, but he's an actor. You cannot have your personal life overshadow. I'm supposed to still be able to be in disbelief about your reality.
Ashley, when was the last time wasn't Ryan Reynolds in a movie, though?
I've heard this argument, but I felt like he had pretty good chemistry in Free Guy with my girl Jodie Comer. Like, I felt like they had really good chemistry. Now, granted, the premise was really different.
Subtle. They had the slow burning type of chemistry, right? It wasn't so blatant, because they kissed probably like once in that movie, I think. Yeah.
Well, they had that really good kiss at like the ice cream stand. And you know what I mean? He seemed like he was so into it. Whereas in this, he's supposed to be madly so passionately in love with this woman that he's willing to alter time.
Yeah.
I need to
I don't know.
I need you to put your back in it, baby.
If anything, what I gathered was this. I did love them together, but to your point, I would say maybe he was so shocked that she was finally there that, I mean, I don't know, but he played the widower very well. Like, I felt like I did get him longing her, but in some ways, maybe he didn't know what to do when he finally got to her in some ways. But I don't know. Zoe was into it too.
I was about to say, she rammed him up against that door, and I was here for it. Yeah. I was here for it. Zoe put her back into it, and I appreciated it. This is also a very family-friendly film, guys, and we understand that it's made for the whole family to enjoy. Unfortunately, their reunion is short-lived. Laura is killed by Maya while stalling so that the Adams can go back to 2018 to find their dad and ensure time travel is never created. Adam's dad, Lewis, played by Mark Ruffalo, which is so funny because we just talked about Mark Ruffalo. He's a college professor when we encountered him back in 2018.
What was the conversation again?
We were talking about Just Like Heaven with him and Reese Witherspoon.
Yes, because I rewatched it and I loved it.
Mm-hmm.
Peak early 2000 rom-com. Yes.
Yes. For those who did not get that Nicolas Cage sweater with John Travolta's name that a student was wearing, by the way, I loved it. Face Off reference, kids.
Yes.
One of my favorite action films. If you have not seen it, go back and watch it. It was amazing.
It was amazing. Very memorable.
I hate to see you go, but I love to watch you leave. Oh, love that movie. Anyway, doesn't take more than a hard look for their dad to realize the Adams are there from the future. So this is going back to my question about his mom recognizing him, because the dad literally, he said one thing in the audience. The dad looks at him for a minute. He's like, Adam? I just felt like it was just very quick. But then again, he was the one working on the time travel technology, right? So it's a little more believable for him.
It was in the realm of possibility for sure.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He was not here for them being there, though, given again the ramifications, and was so adamant that he did not want to hear any details about the future. Maya makes a return visit to her younger self in 2018 again as well to discuss Adam. We hear what really drove Maya's plans: loneliness from giving her life to her work and wanting to ensure her legacy. The younger Maya was the toughest thing about this movie for me. She did not look realistic. That was hard.
It was very bad to the point where I was like, why? Because I'm sure that was a lot of money to put, her face on that woman, because I'm sure it was a body double at the end of the day, but just a CGI face. I don't like it when movies do that. They did that for that Scorsese De Niro movie, and they've done it. They actually, you remember they did it for Ant-Man too, for Michael Douglas and Michelle Pfeiffer.
Still they rough. Do it a lot with trying to age the actors down, but this one, I mean, she almost looked like she was a character out of not a comic book, but out of a video game.
I was going to say she belongs into
a film
in the metaverse at this rate.
Exactly. What were your thoughts on Maya's motivations for her actions throughout this film?
It was pretty simple to me. It was out of greed. Like, there was opportunity, greed and power. I think those were the two motivators for her. I know she was the bad guy, but to me, she wasn't as menacing as, she could have been. Not to say I didn't feel, I really didn't feel anything towards her besides him trying to, outrun her, right? I really didn't have much of an emotional attachment to her at all. Does that make any sense? Some bad guys you really, really hate. Like, for example, Glenn Close, for many years, I had major problems with her because I hated her so much as Cruella. She played that role so well that I was like, I couldn't look at her for a minute,
Catch those puppies. Yeah, she was a really good villain. Even Fatal Attraction. I mean, she plays villain.
But was she the villain?
Yes. She was still the villain. Yes.
She was a woman scorned.
Yeah, that doesn't give you license to do certain things. Let's be clear. What the bunny do? What did the bunny do?
But to the Marvel point earlier, everything with her name on it was giving me Stark vibes. It was like soaring everywhere, fancy laboratory, big fancy building.
That's a great reference.
It was definitely giving me Stark Enterprises for sure.
So I will say that what I found interesting was the idea that loneliness and all of this was driving her wanting to ensure a legacy, because it's still so rooted in selfishness. Like, she kept saying, you never got the bigger picture and all this stuff, as if there was a Thanos reasoning behind it of it being bigger than her, it being about for being the greater good or anything like that. It was really, everything she did was so rooted in selfishness. And because of that, I feel like it just like rotted her from the inside out, because as we see, her younger self still had a moral compass. Her younger self still was not for a lot of the things that the older version of her wanted to do. And so I just think that to your point, greediness, that selfishness just kind of really corrupted her, and I couldn't justify her actions, because to your point, there are some villains such as Killmonger who I can relate to and understand and have some level of empathy for their mission. Hers, I could not. There was some animosity between adult Adam and his father, feeling like he'd always put science first. It took a combo with young Adam for him to be reminded of what their relationship was really like. Now, I said the scene between adult Adam and his mother was one of my favorite. This is my absolute favorite. Adult Adam had come to hate his father because it was easier than missing him, essentially.
Yes.
As young Adam said, I think it's easier to be angry than it is to be sad. Do you think it'd be helpful to have that recall on some of your childhood memories?
That's a great question. And obviously I'm having to think about childhood memories that like made me sad, for example, right? And it's like, what's the root of that sadness, right? Was it not feeling accepted for your full self in some way, or, not feeling like you were heard in others,
or
and
loved
so,
in this case?
Yeah, that's a great conversation that they had, for sure. When you settle on an emotion, because I do believe the human brain is constantly filtering its environment, right? And putting it in particular categories. Because the grief was so much, it probably is easier to think about angry things, and you can just pinpoint certain memories like, oh, you were never there, work over everything. But in fact, that was not necessarily the full picture
at all.
Yeah.
I loved it so much because I do wish that I had my younger versions of myself to remind me of the realities, because I feel like some traumas that we hold on to are more imagined than real. Like in this case, he was saying, oh, dad bought us the little baseball thing because he didn't want to play catch with us. Lies. Dad bought that for us because we went past the toy store all the time and we begged him for it. And so he bought it, and he still came home and played catch with us every night. Like memories are faulty, right?
They can be, but I feel like I gained more perspective as an adult than I did as a kid. And mind you, I was a very mindful child. But I feel like as an adult, I feel like I'm able to give grace to, family, teachers, environments, what have you, than I was when I was younger, though.
I think that's fair. And I think young Adam makes mention of that when he says, I know you're older than me and therefore wiser than me. But I still think if there are things that we have held on to, for instance, I know I've definitely held on to certain things from my childhood.
Yeah.
I think having the ability to go back and have those memories reconciled with the actual reality of a moment or of a situation would be helpful, because I do think memories still can get distorted. Now, to your point, you try to work to get over them. You try to work to give grace. But what if you could go back and you immediately get this shock of like, that's not even what really happened. Why have I been holding on to that for 25 years? You know what I mean? And I think that could be valuable for a lot of people. That may save some therapy costs, right?
Right. Or just being okay. Because I say that I'll look at the situation and I try to analyze it and try to reconcile my emotions, but it's okay to feel as well. It's okay to feel how you feel in the moment. That's okay. Right. And that's a lesson that I feel like I have to learn, because I've always reasoned everything away.
Feel those feelings so that they don't continue to bubble up in various ways. We finally get that Jen Garner, Mark Ruffalo reunion over an hour into the film. 13 going on 30 fans rejoice.
Oh, happy day. I'm sorry. Or Thriller. I should be singing Thriller.
There you go. I read interviews from them to prep for the pod, and they were just both saying how they were just so happy to be back on screen together, even though they didn't have many scenes together. Whenever they had like 10 minutes to spare, they jumped right into a conversation to try to like catch up. And they do have some ideas for some projects together. So we may see more Jen Garner, Mark Ruffalo on our screens, guys.
Mm.
Adam's father has a change of heart about disrupting the time and helping out, and shows up at Saurian headquarters to help destroy the tech and hard drive to prevent time travel. Of course, fighting again ensues, and in the grand finale, Maya even took young Adam hostage for a minute. Again, it shows how far down the moral rabbit hole she has gone. Tries to shoot Lewis, but ends up killing her younger self instead. Ding dong, the witch is dead, Delora. In final scenes between the Adams and Lewis, Lewis realizes he's dead in the future, but he still doesn't want to know the when or the how. Do you think that you would have that strength to not want to change your future if you knew you had passed away?
Yeah, because that's the only thing that's guaranteed in this life, right? I don't think I would want to know, because I would, again, overthink. I would overthink way too much. So no, I don't need it.
I think I agree with you. I think there would have been a time where I would have said, no, tell me, because I want to fix it. But what if this is some Final Destination-ish and death is going to follow you no matter what? If it was your time to go, maybe you're going to go in an even worse way if you try to manipulate it and not have those events happen. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, in movie world, I'm sure they would have made it in beautifully, but in reality, yeah, I guess if it was my time to go, it's probably just my time to go. Curious what our listeners think, though. If you guys have any thoughts on that, feel free to let us know.
Please.
That three-way catch between adult Adam, young Adam, and Lewis, they get some much needed resolution, much needed love. Was the scene between Ryan Reynolds and Mark Ruffalo in particular, was it emotional for you, or was it kind of weird watching the Hulk and Deadpool cry it out and hug it out?
Yeah, in terms of favorite scenes, this is definitely number 2 for me, because the way that Mark had to drill it in. He was like, you are not hearing me. I love you. You are my son. I love you. I love you. I was like, because in Big Adam's world, this is his father, who he has not seen in years, telling him the one thing he probably wanted to hear the most. This level of closure, you can't pay for this.
Like I said, save many therapy dollars right here if everybody was able to have this type of experience. It was beautiful. I mean, there was moments where I was like being pulled out of it, and I'm like, wait, let me get back into this. Let me think of this in the context of what it is, because just the emotion of the moment. I love that even though Mark Ruffalo and Ryan Reynolds aren't that far in age in real life, there was such a wisdom still about the character of Lewis and about him playing that father, that you still were so invested in, like, let me correct this. Because even remember, he goes back home at one point in the scene with him and Jennifer Garner, and he's reflecting on how his son got to be the way he was and how he felt, and asking, do you think Adam's lonely and all these things? And I think it just showed a level of like love and empathy that his father had that he just had no idea of and couldn't appreciate, because he lived so much in that anger. And it was beautiful.
Yeah.
So we see those echoes of time that we'd heard about throughout the film, about, even if this timeline goes away, there will still be echoes. Young Adam, when he goes back to his normal timeline, shows some real love to his mom in a redo of a previous scene, gives her a real hug, and adult Adam still meets Laura in class. And we assume that they live this time happily ever after.
On fixed time, right?
Give me your final thoughts, Delora, on the Adam Project.
It was a lot of fun. I really enjoy time travel. I just realized in this conversation that Mark Ruffalo is also typecast as a physics person.
He's always the smart
guy. Yeah. AKA the Hulk.
Bruce Banner.
Why doesn't he have his own movie? But I digress. It was a lot of fun. I enjoyed the humor. The little boy was such a talent. Jennifer Gardner. Everybody everybody understood their assignments in this role for the most part, with the exception of Ryan Reynolds and Zoe Saldana for you.
No, Zoe did her
everyone,
thing. I said, Ryan, I needed Ryan to put his back into it.
Zoe did do her thing.
Yeah.
The only one who didn't understand the assignment was the decision made to have that woman's younger self. Her face was, it did take me out of it. I'm not going to lie, but
yeah,
a lot of fun. I appreciate it. It's the type of movie I enjoy this time of the year. The sun is out. It's getting warmer. And we want a blockbuster, and it delivered. How about you?
Yeah. To your point, this was one I think I told you I've been anticipating, because I watch, sometimes I skip ahead. Obviously, you and I do it probably a lot too, because we're trying to decide on content for the podcast. So I was looking at all the trailers of upcoming Netflix stuff, and this was one that stood out to me. And I was like, this is going to be so good. I think I'm really going to enjoy it. And it didn't disappoint me, because again, this Marvel-centric cast, this heartfelt, with still a lot of levity, really made me feel good, because I watched this for the first time on like a Friday afternoon, and I just really, it just gave me the feels. I just really liked it. And my girl Zoe Saldana, I didn't expect to get, and I loved. Again, taking us back to an action role for her. I don't really have, beyond, to your point, the issue with the lady's face, any bad words for it. I just think it was, predictable and lighthearted. And sometimes that's what I'm looking for. So
exactly.
In this case, it's all good. Looking forward to Deadpool 3. So Delora, that is it for our recap this week. What do you have for hidden gems?
All right, Ashley, I have 3 this week. The first is a podcast. It is a popular podcast called Earn Your Leisure. It's a financial podcast. Like, one thing about me, I love podcasts. I love my financial podcast. I love my politics podcast, and I love my pop culture podcast. And this particular episode merged 2 things together. They interviewed Steve Harvey, and they sat down with him for a 2-hour interview talking about his success, talking about Hollywood and how he maneuvered through tax issues, and he never missed a payment, and now he's good to go, and him owning his IP and making money with, Family Feud, his new Judge show, his original IP of America's Got Talent. I thought that was interesting. That was a nice nugget there. So I appreciate Steve. He's of my father's generation. He's also from Cleveland. So there's a level of like, I always follow his career. He talks about his daughter Lori and his twin girls and everything. So it was long, but it was a very engaging conversation. Very, Black uncle energy for sure. But I love it. It feels like home to me. You know what I mean?
Isn't that a song?
Feels like home. Yes. My second hidden gem, Disney Pixar Turning Red, available on Disney Plus. It is the latest animated Pixar film, and it is a hot mess. Okay. In terms of, it's about an erratic 13-year-old girl who has a family history of turning into pandas, especially going through extreme emotional, reaction, whether it was happy, sad, mad.
Oh,
it's like a allegory to hormonal teenage years, and it's rebellion, talking about kids' behavior. My mom was like, oh, she was so rebellious. I'm like, Mom, she was also 13 years old. Like, it's okay. Like, it's not okay, but you understand what I mean. It comes with the territory.
Yeah.
The creator is around our age, Ashley. It takes place in early 2000s. So there's nods to all the things that we grew up with. The only difference is she's an Asian girl in, Toronto, Canada, but Y2K scare, check. Cheesy boy band, check. Gigapet, check. It was giving me all the feels.
Wow.
So check it out. Is it for young kids? I don't know. Amara has seen it. The animation is beautiful. The storyline was it has a lot of parents debating. That's all I have to say. I feel like I'm okay right now because Amara is pretty aware, but I don't think she's gonna gather all this behavior. I watched The Little Mermaid and I didn't turn out to be a bratty 16-year-old. So it'll be okay. My final hidden gem, The Batman. It was David's birthday weekend and we went to see the movie, which was nice because it rained all day. So the perks of having a March birthday. I said I wasn't really excited about it. And, Rob looked kind of grungy, but it wasn't a bad movie. And I didn't feel all of the almost 3-hour movie. It was getting close, but it was engaging and a lot of fun. And Zoe Kravitz is everything. I love her. And she is definitely meant for that type of role. So how about you, Ashley?
Thank you so much. I was going to go see the Batman this weekend, so it's still on my list. All right. I have one hidden gem this week. I actually consumed quite a few things and only one made my hidden gems list. Deep Water on Hulu. I do not recommend. Okay. Let me just put that out there.
I heard that it was so bad.
Sorry. I was like, what is the point of this? Why did I just waste almost 2 hours of my life? No offense to, Ben and Anna. No. Anyway, my one hidden gem, Life and Beth on Hulu. This one stuck out. Is a series created and written by Amy Schumer, also starring Michael Cera, 10 episodes. Michael Cera's character is actually loosely based on Amy Schumer's real life husband. It's really kind of a series that is like a reevaluation of life and childhood trauma. Speaking of our recap and the reevaluation of childhood traumas, she goes through quite a bit and goes through quite a journey, both career-wise and within her family and her love life. And I haven't really seen Amy Schumer do too many projects that aren't based totally in humor. So this one I felt like gave me more layers to Amy Schumer, especially in her.
So it's not completely humor?
It's not completely humor. No, wow. There's some very serious moments. There's a lot of reflection and like things that she's trying to like get through. And it just showed me additional layers to her artistry and to her acting abilities. So Life and Beth on Hulu, 10 episodes. I recommend it. And that is my one hidden gem of this week. So Delora, that's all we got today, girl.
Yes.
Avi will be back on Thursday with another Hot Topics and Headlines. And guys, if you can believe it, we are almost at episode 100.
Mind blown. Crazy.
We are trying to figure out what we're going to do for our 100th episode. So stay tuned for that. But thank you all for sticking with us for all of these episodes thus far. We cannot tell you guys how much we appreciate y'all every single week.
1000%. And if you want to give us some suggestions, feel free to reach out on our social media page on Facebook and Instagram. We would love to hear from you.
Absolutely. Until then, guys.
Bye.